Most gardeners spend their entire spring doing the exact same thing over and over again, buying seeds, nursing fragile seedlings, and desperately replacing the potted plants that died off over the winter. This cycle repeats so often that we just accept it as the natural rule of gardening. But what if I told you there are containers vegetables that you never have to replant? The truth is, not all vegetables are meant to live for just one season. There are perennial crops with such fierce vitality that, with just one single planting, they will regenerate from their old root systems, continuously providing you with food for 10 or even 20 years. Instead of sweating over crops that disappear after a single harvest, you could be building a food production system that actually grows stronger and more productive over time. Today, we're counting down 7 perennial vegetables and herbs that can thrive in containers and reward a single planting with decades of production. Some are surprisingly well known, while others are hidden gems that most gardeners have never even thought to grow. And by the time we reach number 1, you'll see why veteran gardeners consider it one of the best long-term investments a food garden can make. And the best part? You don't need a massive backyard to pull this off. Let's get started. Kicking off our list at number 7 is French sorrel, a remarkable perennial green that acts as the very first herald of spring. While the rest of the garden is still asleep under the thawing frost, this resilient plant pushes its bright, shield-shaped leaves through the cold earth, completely unaffected by the lingering chill. Thriving effortlessly across a wide range of climates from the freezing winters of USDA Zone 3 all the way to the mild warmth of Zone 9, it is an absolute necessity for container gardeners who crave fresh harvests before the summer season even begins. You do not need a massive planter to accommodate its root system. A modest 3 to 5 gallon container is perfectly sufficient to house this plant for decades. What makes French sorrel truly exceptional is its profound longevity paired with an unforgettable flavor profile. You might expect a simple leafy green, but biting into a fresh sorrel leaf delivers a sharp, vibrant burst of lemon. Bright, acidic, and entirely surprising given that it contains no citrus whatsoever. This unique lemony tang made it a highly prized culinary staple in historical European kitchens long before lemons were commercially available. Planted in its small container, the root system establishes itself deeply and securely. Year after year, it expands its crown, producing denser and more abundant clusters of foliage. The harvesting technique is incredibly simple and perfectly suited for the continuous yield we desire. You merely harvest the outer leaves by pinching them off at the base. By leaving the inner crown intact, the plant is triggered to produce a continuous flush of new growth. As the intense heat of midsummer arrives, the plant may temporarily slow down or send up a tall flower stalk. Simply snip those flowers off immediately to redirect its vital energy back into producing edible leaves. When autumn brings cooler temperatures, French sorrel experiences a magnificent resurgence, offering a second massive harvest window. Because of its extreme cold tolerance, it survives brutal winters in its container with virtually no extra protection. To sustain it for 20 years in the same pot, all you need to do is apply a light top dressing of organic compost every spring to replenish the nutrients washed away by watering. You invest a few minutes planting it into a pot of rich, well-draining soil just once, and you're rewarded with a lifetime supply of zesty, bright greens that will elevate your salads, soups, and seafood dishes for decades. It is the ultimate low-maintenance perennial, asking for almost nothing while giving you the very first taste of spring. Taking the sixth spot on our countdown is a plant that many modern shoppers mistakenly view as a short-lived, disposable supermarket herb. In reality, rosemary is an incredibly robust, woody perennial shrub that can easily outlive the person who planted it. When treated with the respect it deserves, a single potted rosemary plant becomes a permanent architectural fixture on your balcony, providing phenomenal fragrance, evergreen beauty, and culinary excellence for well over 20 years. The secret to unlocking decades of life from a container-grown rosemary lies in understanding its ancestral roots. Originating from the harsh, sun-drenched, and rocky coastlines of the Mediterranean, it naturally thrives outdoors year-round in USDA zones 7 through 10. To ensure it lives to its full 20-year potential, you must plant it in a generous 5 to 10-gallon terracotta pot filled with heavily aerated soil. Mix in ample amounts of perlite, coarse sand, or fine gravel to guarantee rapid drainage. Terracotta is absolutely crucial here, as the porous clay allows the soil to breathe and dry out entirely between waterings, perfectly mimicking those dry Mediterranean slopes. Its absolute greatest enemy is not pests or intense heat. Its greatest enemy is overwatering and heavy, soggy soil. As the years pass, a fascinating transformation occurs. The soft, flexible green stems slowly mature into thick, twisted, peeling wood. It begins to look less like an herb and more like a majestic ancient bonsai tree, adding tremendous visual character to your outdoor living space. Throughout the entire year, regardless of the season, you can simply step outside with a pair of scissors and snip off a few resinous, pine-scented sprigs to elevate a roasted chicken, flavor a hearty winter stew, or infuse your olive oil. For gardeners living in colder regions below Zone 7, growing rosemary in a container is actually a massive strategic advantage rather than a limitation. When the freezing winter temperatures threaten to drop below freezing, you can simply carry the pot indoors, placing it near a bright, sunny window to comfortably ride out the winter months. By mastering this delicate balance of bright light and minimal watering, this woody perennial will become a lifelong companion in your garden, offering decades of savory harvests from a single beautiful container. Arriving at number 5, we step into the realm of truly spectacular container gardening with the globe artichoke. This is not merely a vegetable, it is a magnificent architectural statement plant that will completely dominate the aesthetic of your patio. Growing an artichoke in a container feels like an act of defiance, proving that you do not need acres of open farmland to cultivate one of the most luxurious and physically imposing perennial crops in the world. To cultivate this Mediterranean native, which flourishes beautifully in USDA zones 7 through 9, you must provide it with the largest container you can possibly accommodate. Because of its massive, sprawling root system and heavy feeding requirements, you will need an expansive vessel holding at least 15 to 20 gallons of incredibly rich compost-heavy soil. In return for this prime real estate on your balcony, it produces stunning, deeply serrated, silver-green foliage that arches gracefully over the edges of the pot. A single, healthy artichoke crown will typically live and produce robustly for 5 to 7 years. However, its true perennial magic, and the exact reason it makes our 20-year list, lies in its remarkable biological survival strategy. Long before the original mother plant begins to fade from old age, it will start sending up vigorous offshoots, commonly referred to as pups, directly from the base of its root system. By carefully separating these new pups and repotting them in fresh compost, or simply allowing one strong pup to take over the main container as the mother plant naturally dies back, your artichoke effectively clones itself. This endless cycle of renewal means that a single initial investment of seeds or a bare root crown will perpetuate indefinitely, keeping your container wildly productive for decades. The harvest itself is an absolute culinary luxury. The edible portion is actually the plant's unbloomed flower bud, featuring thick, meaty petals and a tender, highly prized heart. If you choose not to harvest a few of the buds for the dinner table, you will be treated to a breathtaking visual display. The tight scales will eventually burst open into a massive, vibrant electric purple flower that acts as a powerful magnet for bees and butterflies. It is a true masterpiece of the perennial garden, merging high-end culinary production with striking ornamental beauty year after year. Moving down to number 4, we encounter a plant of dramatic contrasts and extraordinary persistence, rhubarb. It is a botanical oddity, technically classified as a vegetable, yet famously utilized in the kitchen almost exclusively as a fruit for sweet, comforting desserts. For the container gardener willing to practice patience, rhubarb represents one of the most reliable, enduring, and visually striking perennial investments you can possibly make. Rhubarb is deeply intertwined with the rhythm of the seasons. Unlike many crops that wilt at the first sign of frost, rhubarb actually demands a prolonged period of freezing winter temperatures to trigger its dormancy and prepare for the explosive growth of spring. This makes it an absolute powerhouse for gardeners in harsh, cold climates, specifically thriving in USDA zones 3 through 8. Because it develops a massive, fleshy root system known as a rhizome, it requires a profoundly large and deep container, holding a minimum of 15 to 20 gallons of soil rich in organic matter. During its very first year in the pot, you must exercise strict discipline. Do not harvest a single stalk. The plant needs this crucial, uninterrupted time to absorb sunlight and channel every ounce of energy down into establishing its permanent root structure. When the second and third springs arrive, your patience will be rewarded exponentially. The crown will erupt with gigantic, prehistoric-looking green leaves supported by thick, vibrant ruby red and bright pink stalks. These stalks are the prized harvest, offering an intensely tart flavor that perfectly balances the heavy sweetness of pies, crumbles, and homemade jams. It is vital to issue a strict safety warning here. The beautiful, massive leaves contain dangerously high concentrations of oxalic acid and are highly toxic. You must only consume the colorful stems. To keep a potted rhubarb thriving for 20 years, the maintenance is surprisingly minimal. You simply need to pull the root mass out and divide it every 5 years or so to prevent it from becoming root-bound and suffocating itself in the pot. By giving it fresh soil during this division, the plant rejuvenates entirely. This simple cycle of explosive spring growth, deep winter dormancy, and occasional division transforms one single rhubarb plant into an unstoppable, multi-decade food producer on your patio. Claiming the third spot on our perennial countdown is a plant that will permanently eliminate your need to buy those expensive, flavorless jars of dried leaves from the grocery store. The bay laurel is a living piece of culinary history, a noble evergreen tree that can effortlessly adapt to life in a container. While it is technically a slow-growing tree rather than a traditional vegetable, its vital role in the kitchen makes it an absolute cornerstone of the long-term, self-sufficient patio garden. Perfectly suited for outdoor life in mild climates ranging from USDA zones 8 to 10, A bay laurel in the wild Mediterranean landscape can tower dozens of feet into the air. However, it possesses a unique biological trait that makes it perfect for urban gardeners. It actually enjoys being slightly root-bound. When confined to a spacious 10 to 15-gallon container, its growth slows down significantly, allowing you to easily manage its size and shape it into a beautiful, dense ornamental shrub. Because of this slow, deliberate growth habit, a potted bay laurel is not just a 10-year commitment. It is a permanent companion that can easily thrive for 50 years or more, outliving almost everything else on your balcony. The true value of this plant becomes instantly apparent the moment you start cooking with it. The fresh leaves are packed with potent, aromatic essential oils that completely dwarf the dusty, faded scent of commercially packaged bay leaves. Whether you are simmering a rich winter beef stew, crafting a complex bone broth, or creating an authentic pasta sauce, simply stepping out to your balcony and plucking a single, glossy green leaf will completely transform the depth of your dish. For those living in colder climates where winter temperatures dip below freezing, the container strategy is your greatest asset. The bay laurel will not survive a harsh freeze outdoors, but its potted nature allows you to easily wheel it indoors before the first frost hits. Placed near a sunny window, it will serve as a gorgeous indoor houseplant throughout the winter, filling your home with its subtle, spicy fragrance. By simply protecting it from extreme cold and providing a well-draining potting mix, you secure a lifetime supply of world-class seasoning from one majestic plant. Securing the runner-up position on our list is a botanical marvel that completely shatters the normal rules of vegetable gardening: tree collards. In the traditional brassica family, plants like cabbage, broccoli, and standard collard greens follow a strict, short-lived biological script. They grow for a few months, produce their harvest, eventually bolt to produce seeds, and then permanently die. Tree collards completely reject this inevitable fate, offering a near-immortal alternative for the savvy container gardener. Flourishing spectacularly in the mild winters of USDA zones 7 to 10, this extraordinary plant grows vertically rather than forming a tight, low-to-the-ground head. It reaches eagerly toward the sky like a miniature palm tree, continuously pushing out massive, nutrient-dense, purple-tinged leaves along its ever-extending main trunk. Because it grows so tall, often reaching 6 to 8 feet, even when restricted to a container, it requires a very heavy, wide-based pot holding at least 10 to 15 gallons along with a thick, sturdy wooden stake driven deep into the soil to support the main trunk as it becomes top-heavy over the years. The harvesting method is a beautiful exercise in sustainability. You simply walk up to the container and snap off the older, larger leaves from the bottom of the stem. The core of the plant remains completely undisturbed, and the top continues to grow higher, endlessly generating fresh foliage to replace exactly what you took. The longevity of tree collards is nothing short of miraculous for a leafy green. A well-staked, adequately fed plant can live and produce continuously for up to 20 years. The leaves are incredibly versatile in the kitchen, offering a sweeter, more tender flavor than regular collards, especially after they have been kissed by a light autumn frost. Imagine the sheer food security of having a 6-foot-tall tower of continuous edible greens on your patio. It requires almost zero replanting effort, turning a single afternoon of potting into 2 decades of abundant, reliable, and delicious harvests. Finally, taking the absolute crown at number 1, we have the undisputed king of the perennial food garden, asparagus. There is no other vegetable that so perfectly captures the philosophy of plant once, harvest for a lifetime. While it requires the greatest initial investment of patience and discipline from the gardener, the compounding rewards it delivers over the decades are unmatched by any other container crop in existence. This legendary perennial is remarkably cold hardy, adapting beautifully to USDA zones 3 through 8. The journey of growing asparagus is a masterclass in delayed gratification. You begin by planting dormant, spider-like roots called crowns. To accommodate this expanding root network, you must forego standard tall pots in favor of a massive, shallow tub holding at least 20 gallons of loose, sandy, highly composted soil. For the entire first and second years, you are strictly forbidden from harvesting. When the young, tender spears emerge in the spring, you must resist the immense temptation to cut them. Instead, you must allow them to grow into towering, delicate, fern-like fronds. These massive green ferns act as solar panels throughout the blazing summer, capturing sunlight and driving massive amounts of energy deep down into the expanding roots. By the time the third spring arrives, the waiting is over, and the magic truly begins. The established crown will begin pushing up thick, succulent, vibrant green spears with astonishing speed. During the peak of the harvest window, the growth is so rapid that you can practically watch the spears get taller from morning to evening. You can confidently snap off these premium restaurant-quality spears for several weeks, enjoying a flavor and crispness that no grocery store can ever replicate. The true miracle of asparagus is its permanence. That single root crown you planted, nourished, and protected during its early years will repeat this exact explosive spring harvest cycle for 20, 30, or even 40 years. To sustain it in a container for decades, simply top-dress the soil with thick organic compost every winter while the plant is dormant. It is the ultimate testament to the power of perennial gardening, a single, patient act of planting that transforms a patio container into a permanent, generational food source. The traditional gardening cycle demands your money and your labor every single spring, only to leave you with empty pots by winter. But, as you have seen today, you have the power to reject that cycle. By dedicating your containers to perennials, whether it is the cold-defying resilience of French sorrel, the towering architecture of tree collards, or the legendary decades-long return of asparagus, you change the entire dynamic of your food supply. You're no longer starting from scratch. You're building equity in your soil. Your balcony transforms from a fleeting seasonal project into a permanent living asset that actually grows stronger, larger, and more productive with every passing year. You're not just planting a garden, you're planting a legacy. Now, the choice is yours. Out of the 7 perennial powerhouses we covered today, which one are you going to invest in for the next 20 years? Let me know down in the comments. I read every single one. If this changed the way you look at container gardening, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next harvest.